Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of America in Black and White. Tonight we have a very special guest, Mr. Christopher Walker, who is going to give us a lot of information alluding to public health and some things that people need to know about how to stay safe and things we need to do in our public life. Let me tell you some things about Mr. Walker. Chris is a remarkable individual with a deep commitment to public health and advocacy. His journey into public health began in 2017 when he was diagnosed with HIV during his senior year in college. This personal experience drove him to become a passionate advocate for people affected with HIV and other systemic health issues. Over the past 7 years, Christopher has dedicated himself to this cause by working at various levels, local, regional, and national. His work has involved collaborating with different organizations that provide services to individuals impacted by systemic health challenges. His advocacy work is rooted in the belief that coming together and supporting one another, we can address systemic health disparities and create a more inclusive and equitable society. Chris's story is a testament to the power of personal experience and determination in driving positive change in the field of public health and beyond. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Mr. Chris Walker. Mr. Walker, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am doing just excellent. Thank you for joining us tonight on the show. Is there anything else you'd like to add to that bio that I read?
Oh no, I think that's as simple as it is.
So, how's everything going with you this evening, sir?
Everything is going great. I had an amazing day at work. Everything is going good. How are you?
I am excellent, and I tell you, I'm looking forward to. I'm glad that you're a guest on the show because this is something as far as public health goes. I mean, I've had a health person on before, but nobody that's actually dealing with public health the way you're dealing with public health. And so it's really an exciting show, and I'm just waiting for you to drop plenty of nuggets on our audience tonight so they can understand a whole bunch of things that people don't know.
Yeah. What I often say about public health is that public health is a dynamic field of study. Public health is preventative health. Public health is also physical health, it's mental health, it's emotional health, it's digital health. It's about making sure that people are aware of the access that they have to resources, but also educating folks that they can live, enhance, and obtain enhanced health outcomes. It's so much more than what people think. So thank you for the platform and the opportunity to come and talk a little bit about what I do each and every day.
Yes, sir. So tell us, what inspired you to pursue a career in public health?
I never knew public health was a career until I was impacted by HIV. But growing up, I was raised very religiously in a religious household, and we always had people staying with us. My parents were pastors, so I grew up ingrained with me to help other people. So I always knew that whatever I did professionally within adulthood, that I wanted to help people. And initially, I went to school to be a physician. I wanted to be a plastic surgeon. And throughout the duration of that, became a victim of sexual assault in my senior year of college. And through that, I was diagnosed with HIV. To make a long story short, I went through a depressive phase. I ran from Memphis to Dallas, looking to seek new opportunities. Got a job here at UT Southwestern in research, thinking that I can make some connections before I went to medical school. But little did I know, the job that I got was in HIV research. And so I was collecting data on the CDC study called the National HIV Behavior Surveillance. And I saw so many people doing that data collection who looked like me and who loved like me, but who were also going through some of the same similar experiences that I was going to, and how they were the champions of their stories. And so they empowered me to then be the champion of my story. So I said, I'm educated, I have this lived experience, so I have the tools and the capacity to be able to make a difference. So I kind of rerouted my career path and went from going up from becoming a physician to going to school to get my master's in public health to figuring out what that could be to starting my doctoral degree in public health, and that was 7 years ago. So I literally started from the bottom, and now I'm here.
Oh, wow. So now you are. So do you have your doctorate right now?
I'm currently working on my doctorate. I finished it up.
Oh wow! Congratulations. Can you share a pivotal moment or experience that shaped your professional journey?
For me, I think it was just like my honestly like my transition within public health. I think that I kind of assimilated quickly in the public health space because of my heart. Um, I started out as a part-time temporary data collector. So I moved to Dallas, making a job that was paying $16 an hour, working um, 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. on an RV at the clubs. And so I literally started from a part-time position in public health to being the field supervisor, overseeing the whole project, to writing the reports, to piloting new projects, to getting picked up by different organizations, being asked to speak on public platforms, being asked to work and collaborate with the CDC, having my own podcast, working in big pharma, being a manager, empowering people and leading staff. I think for me, the most pivotal moment within my public health career was just like my assimilation of my rise. For me being a young person within these different leadership positions, um, who was just simply in the beginning just going off lived experience and a passion to drive and advocate for change. A lot of people within my community saw me for what I could be. They didn't see me for for who I was. They saw me for what I could be, and they put a lot of time and investment and energy into me. Um, to get me to here. And so I'm appreciative of those folks who saw more in me than I saw in myself at those moments. So for me, when I say the thing that was a turning point in my career was my career itself, my journey, the journey that I'm still on to this day.
Wow, that's a lot. But I will tell you, it takes a strong person, to do what you did for the trauma you experienced to come to the point where you are right now.
Mhm.
Because for a lot of people, that trauma could be so much that they couldn't actually handle moving forward. So
Mhm.
how were you able to move forward? What were some of the things that happened that gave you more of the strength to embolden you to be you?
Honestly, it was that job, the work that I do kind of saved my life. So the study that I was doing when I first started my career in public health was called the National HIV Behavior Surveillance. So what it is that it's a national study that's done in 23 cities, to where we're collecting qualitative data for people who just stay in communities highly impacted by HIV. And so the cycle that we were on was the MSM cycle. For those of you who don't know what MSM stands for, it stands for men who have sex with men. So what we were doing is that we were anonymously interviewing a man who enjoyed the company of other men, asking them about their sex lives, how they like to have sex, who they have sex with, if they have been homeless, and all these other factors that may impact their sexual behaviors, and then giving them a HIV test. So through that experience, I came into contact with so many people who live with HIV, who were so vibrant, full of life, and who had owned their status, and that kind of empowered me to do that. So I think that what I can say is that my work kind of saved me. And what I tell people about healing from trauma and just healing in general is that healing is a process. It's not a destination, it's a journey. There's always going to be some things that happen in your life that are going to re-traumatize you and they're going to trigger you, but you wake up each day to be better than your last day that you went to bed. And so that's my outlook on life. I look at the world as a glass, as the glass being half full and not half empty, with optimism, because there's so many things that I could live to be down about, but there's also so many things I have to be thankful for. So each and every day that I wake up with the fuel to be better, to think innovatively, to be more than which I was. And for those folks who don't understand it, and for those folks who don't love it, and those folks who don't accept it, I don't need those folks around me in my life. Um, so I think it's a combination of
Yes, sir.
being more than what you think that you can be. One, two, surrounding yourself with positive influences that can empower you to be a better person. And three is accepting all of who you are and acknowledging that you are more than your story, because your story is still unwritten.
Oh wow. Okay. I hope I hope everybody out there that's listening is getting this positive reinforcement that's being dished out right now. Chris, I'm really proud to hear that because actually I've talked to some people myself that are not as strong or not as forthcoming because there's such a stigma that comes with having HIV. So, what would you advise those people, to do or how to live when it comes to that in order to get out of that?
I think that for folks living with HIV, the thing that I tell people most is that you are deserving of love and you are deserving to be loved. And as long as you take your medication as prescribed, you can live a happy and holistically healthy life. Now, things in your life are going to change, but everything in life never remains the same, and it's just a metamorphosis. HIV lives with you. You do not live with it. It's a part of you, like the color of your skin, things that you like to eat, the length of your hair. You make it. It does not make you. And for those people who do not accept it or understand it, that's their issue. That's not yours. And you have the choice to either deal with them or not. And the universe, God, or whoever you believe in, will bring people into your life that support you and that love you and that value you for you. But you have to live in your truth because you never know who could be for you, who could be there for you until you authentically live as yourself.
Oh wow. Oh, those are some really good words. I so do appreciate that. I got to make sure I look at this again because all this stuff that you're saying in that last statement, that right there is about the most powerful statement I think I've ever heard anybody that's spoken about or have HIV that's actually something that's worthy of sticking with somebody. That's
Mhm.
very positive right there. I love that message.
Thank you.
What are some of the most significant challenges you've encountered in your career, and how did you overcome them?
Oh my gosh. So I think that having to, because I work in the public health space, and primarily among vulnerable communities, so and marginalized communities within like sexual reproductive health, so Black gay men, and we, with me being a Black gay man living with HIV, I have historically had an issue toggling this personal life and professional life. One of the biggest things that had recently happened to me was about 8 months ago. I lost my job. I was fired from a job that I loved and in which I was amazing at because I was involved. I was involved in a situation that went public, and the company felt the need to let me go because they felt like it was a bad representation of who they were, and it was because I was outside living my life and got caught up in something. And so for me, I went through a lot. You know, I went through public embarrassment. I went through having a shift in income. I went through feeling like I wasn't good enough and regretting who I was. And so, what I can say through that experience is that in the moment, I asked God why, and I really was down on myself. But I didn't understand that there was grace in the situation because I had to go through these experiences to learn and experience the things that help make me a better public health practitioner for folks in the future. And I didn't know that at the time. So for me, one of the biggest issues that I have faced in this field is like being a part of a community that I'm advocating for, and knowing the internal struggles that we deal with, and being a victim of the community, but also trying to be a champion and hero of the community, which is hard sometimes. But I think that as time goes on, I learned how to ebb and flow within the two. And, you know, the universe and my community will give me grace. And like I said in the beginning, everybody's not going to accept you, and that's fine. I don't need everybody to accept me. But what I need everybody to do is respect me. And so those spaces that I'm destined to be in, those doors are open for me. And so in that moment, I was meant to be in one space for a while. It was amazing while I was there. It was great. That door closed, and then another opportunity opened that allowed me to grow and be all that I am and all that I could be.
Oh wow. I'm sorry to hear that. Let me ask you this question, and I don't know if you could answer this or not, but have you guys gotten any new statistical data for these first two quarters as to new cases, and how do they break down from an ethnic perspective?
So the thing about data is that like typically it takes data about 2 years to be published because when data is collected, it has to be weighted, and it has to be synthesized. But
Synthesize.
the most recent data as it relates to HIV states is that HIV has kind of been, it's primarily within like Black and Brown communities, has been stagnant, primarily amongst Black gay men. So the rates are still high. But what we're seeing is that they're living it off. Where there's an increase is that the rates among Black women are increasing for HIV, primarily heterosexual cisgender Black women. And there's a lot of more data out that's coming out about Hispanic and Latinx communities. As we are in the era of language justice and more health literacy. But in the terms of disparity, when we compare Black and brown bodies to those white bodies, the disparities and impacts of HIV are still higher within Black and brown communities, which is kind of saddening given a lot of the nuances that we have around PrEP and PEP, which is medication that you can take that prevents HIV, that keeps folks from acquiring the virus, that has been out since around 2012. But the biggest change that we're seeing is that the seroconversion rates of women, just women, um, who are seroconverting to a positive HIV status.
Oh wow. So what about from the with the new R&D when it comes to new medications? Are there any other new medications that's popping out now?
So recently, when we talk about treatment on the PrEP side, so pre-exposure prophylaxis, there is a new medication on market called Apretude, which is an injectable version of PrEP. So when we talk about an injection and PrEP in general, so historically it was a pill that people could take once a day. Now folk have the option to get a bi-monthly injection. And then on the treatment side, so for people living with HIV that are engaged in ART, so antiretroviral therapy, so that's the medication that people take to be virally suppressed. And as we know, once you're virally suppressed, you're undetectable. And undetectable means untransmittable. We now have an injection called Cabenuva that folk living with HIV can take once every 2 months to reach this virally suppressed state, so they can be undetectable, so they won't transmit the virus.
Mm, okay. What do you consider to be your most significant accomplishments in the field of public health?
Oh my gosh. I think that my existence in general, my ability just to be able to exist within public health and how to navigate these spaces while being impacted by the things that I'm fighting against day in and day out, my ability to be able to collaborate with different entities, my ability to be able to speak in a way to in which people can understand on all levels, from a community perspective, from a medical perspective, from a research perspective, and my ability to be able to bring different sects of folk together in one space for us to be able to collaborate. I'm someone who's a part of ballroom community. I'm a part of the public health community. I'm a part of the HIV community. I'm a part of the cishet Black community. So I have the knack to be able to bring everybody together, to connect, so we can better understand each other with more empathy. So for me, it's been my ability just to make connections.
Well, I can clearly see that because you've got a really beautiful spirit.
Thank you.
So that's just a natural thing. So did I hear you say ballroom?
Yes, ballroom.
So tell us about the ballroom scene. I mean, what do you do with ballroom?
Oh my gosh. What don't I do at ballroom? um, so for those of you all who don't know what the ballroom scene is that ballroom is a space where the LGBTQIA LMNOP and plus folk and those folks who love them and support them can come together to compete in different categories that infuse arts, advocacy, culture, family, and love, and a little bit of shade. And so ballroom was created, I believe, in the late 1960s, um, out of the need to create spaces for the Black and brown drag queens. So what happened was that there was this drag queen in New York, and she would compete in large in white ball draw drag pageants. And so she said she was supposed to win all these times, and she never won. So what she did is that she created her own community where Black and brown drag queens like herself could win. And so out of this, the ballroom scene was formed, and over years, ballroom was underground, and you would have like these drag queens and these female figures and trans women who were really establishing these houses of Black and brown queer youth that had nowhere to go and would compete in these categories and compete for notoriety and compete to be seen within this community in ways that they couldn't be seen in the mainstream world. And so over time, ballroom uh, infused fashion, and it grew from New York to New Jersey to DC to Atlanta to the East Coast to the West Coast to the Gulf Coast to so many areas, and went from this secret society of queer community competing and showing love to like this mainstream thing where everybody is a part of, that everybody can see on TV, that even cishet folks have been a part of. And we even have two different types of ballroom scenes. You have the mainstream scene, then you have the Kiki ballroom scene, which is like more introductory and geared towards young folk, which is a great space. I love ballroom. I'm a ballroom father in both the mainstream and the Kiki scene here in Dallas, Texas. And so, like, my house travels and competes, win cash in different categories, and just have a great time. I actually just got back from Atlanta last weekend for the Southeast Ballroom Awards and the Amplify Ballroom Leadership Conference. So it's really a dope place that I enjoy and I love to be a part of.
So, do you compete?
Excuse me?
Do you compete?
I do compete.
Okay. How many trophies do you have?
Too many to count. Too many to count. But I can say is that I probably have won over $10,000 in ballroom today. And I've been in ballroom for about 4 years. And I don't won over $10,000 in ballroom.
Oh, wow. Okay, you're on the fast track. How do you envision the future of public health evolving in the coming years?
um, I envision the future of public health actually being proactive. Historically, public health has been reactive instead of proactive. And when I think about public health, I think about preventative healthcare. And so when we talk about prevention, what does prevention really mean? We need to be able to catch things before they happen, catch these issues before they become an issue, so people can know where the resources are before they become victims of it. And I think that traditionally we haven't always been chasing demons, and we need to get ahead of them. So I envision a future of public health truly being preventative. So we're thinking about things before they hit the fan, right? So if we would have done our due diligence to make sure that people had access to vaccinations, people had access to things as simple as Germex or gloves and masks before COVID hit, COVID would not have been a problem as it was. If we would have did work to um, decounter medical mistrust, more on the front end, more people would have gotten the COVID vaccination when it first hit, right? If we would have did a better job of diversity, equity, and inclusion within healthcare settings, we wouldn't have people afraid to go to physicians' office. We wouldn't have people who negate going in to see physicians regularly because they don't see no representation of themselves. So for me, within the future of public health, I think of us creating this landscape where we can truly be proactive to where everybody can see themselves in the healthcare landscape, so people can know the options that they have to live holistically better lives. I think that um, public health in the future is not automatically excluding mental health. I think when we talk about public health, we're talking about holistic health. In the future, we should be addressing the social determinants of health, where folks live, work, play, worship, their access to vehicles, food insecurity, housing instability, mental health, behavioral health, digital health, and social health. All these things impact overall well-being. So, I envision a future of public health, and we create healthcare systems and encompass all of these factors of health, and not just biological health, not just blood pressure, not just the readings that we get from screenings, but these other factors that also attribute to negative health outcomes.
Mm. So, besides HIV, are there any other serious situations happening with other STDs?
Oh my gosh, yes. So I don't know if you know, but like we recently, the Department of State and Health Human Services recently received a report that said syphilis was at an all-time high since the 1950s. So
Oh,
like I think that like syphilis rates had leveled off for a number of years, but in this new report, syphilis rates are at an all-time high, and in the past 8 years, congenital syphilis has rose by 98%. And so when I say congenital syphilis, I mean so folks who are women who are living with women and men who are living with syphilis that are birthing children, and their children are being born with syphilis. So syphilis, we are in a syphilis crisis right now, and that's due because a lot of the one of the medications there's a deficit in that medication, and a lot of people aren't getting tested for syphilis. And syphilis is what they call the silent STD, because you can have syphilis for a number of years and not even know, because it's latent within your system. And then when it comes, your organs are failing, and at that point, it's too late. So syphilis is crazy right now. Yeah.
wow. So is that Is that like one of the main STDs, or is there any other STDs that are, that are actually on the rise of being problematic?
So as based off recent that report, syphilis is at an all-time high, but the rates of gonorrhea and chlamydia too are up there. So I call them the Fab Five: gonorrhea, chlamydia, the Fab Five, right? HIV, HIV, gonorrhea, chlamydia, syphilis, and herpes. They are at an all-time high.
Oh,
Um, just in just in general. And when we look at the rates of the Fab Five within the rural South and in southern cities, and primarily within disenfranchised communities, where there is low education, where there's lower income, where there's lack of access to medical um, services, these rates are exacerbated primarily in Black and Brown communities. When we talk about those marginalized communities, such as men who have sex with men, folks who are engaged in sex work, when we talk about Black women, all of these communities, the rates are increased just because of varying of issues, right? So, like when we talk about what's going on in the South compared to the North, we live in a Bible Belt where it's very conservative, where everything is based and rooted on religion, but we can't talk about sex in high school because it's illegal, compared to more liberal places like New York or California, where it's a bit more progressive and the public health infrastructure is set up a bit more equitably, and it's also backed up by law and legality. But laws in the South prevent us from really advocating and enhancing and spreading resources the way that our communities deserve them, or should deserve them, or should be receiving those things.
so let me just ask you this, because you just said something that just caught my attention. From a regional perspective, do you see like more of an impact in the South, Southeast, compared to what you may have the North, Northeast, the Midwest, or the West, or the
De-
South?
uh, de- definitely. So 50% of all, I think it was from data from 2020 stated that 50% of all new HIV infections came from the South. And the South is comprised of, I think it was like 13 states.
Mhm.
So when we talk about 13 states, that probably 13 out of 50 states, and 50% of an epidemic comes from one area, that's a lot. And so, like, for those reasons that I said, low health literacy, we live in a Bible Belt, a religion and culture where we're not talking about sex. Also, access to healthcare is not what it is in New York. Affordability of healthcare, um, accessibility of things such as like PrEP and PEP. When we talk about what our local legislation looks like, folks not voting in policies that can really protect um, folks impacted by HIV and other things in these communities to make sure that people have the access, equitable access to what they need just to be okay.
Mm, that's something. And when you said 13 states, 13 states is like, I don't know if you want to break that down. It's like a
Oh,
third or a
it's the
quarter.
third, yeah.
It's a
Uh,
third, right? That's a,
right.
that's a lot of
Yeah.
states.
Texas, Louisiana. So Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina,
North
North
Carolina,
Carolina, DC,
Virginia.
uh, Virginia. Yeah. So like really.
Wow. That is now that's impactful. Now,
Mm.
how do like when that time comes, like reports like that? How do the public get access to these things?
Oh my God, you go to www.cdc.gov, www.aidsview, um, HRSA. Um, you can go to your local health department website to get this data. All this data that I'm telling you is openly available and accessible.
Mhm.
If you go to Instagram, let's stop HIV together through CDC, you can get all this information. The thing about it is that the information is out there. It's just that it's not disseminated in the right ways to the folks that is currently impacting. So me, primarily as a public health educator and a public health practitioner, it's my job to take this information and figure out ways to make the communities that I represent and the communities that I'm connected to aware of what's going on. But it's bigger than just making those folks aware. It's also making them aware, but also making sure they have access and awareness and knowledge of the resources that they can utilize to mitigate the data, to change the data.
Wow. So, what role do you believe technology will play in shaping the future of public health?
Everything. we've already seen it, right? So I think that in terms of like accessibility, when we talk about bringing healthcare to rural communities, telehealth is so essential. So the ability for me to be able to have a doctor's appointment via webcam or via my cell phone, instead of having to figure out how to get to my doctor's office if I don't have a car, if the bus not running, if I got to pick up my kids from work, if I don't have the time, if I can't afford bus fare, I can just hop on my phone and talk to my physician, right? So that's one. Two, now in the world of HIV, we have at home HIV and STI testing, so where you can request somebody to send an HIV and STI test to your home and you test yourself. So we even have like enhanced self-testing technology that allows people to test themselves, right? And then so they can be aware of what their statuses are, and to then they can connect themselves to resources. In the world of vaccination and treatment research, we're researching different vaccinations for a vaccination for multiple viruses, different treatments for different diseases and ailments. I think that uh, we're headed in the right direction to really shift what the healthcare outcomes of American citizens look like. And we're starting to see it each and every day. And so just to think, this is where we are in 2024. And I can remember when I was young having to go to the doctor. I never would have thought that I can go to my doctor, while watching the TV screen. You know what I'm saying? Like I never thought that it was a reality, but it it is. So if this is where we are now, where I can't even imagine where we will be in 2048. You know?
Oh, wow. Can you highlight some of the key initiatives you've spearheaded to promote health equity and accessibility?
Oh my gosh, yes. So currently, I am a campaign ambassador for the CDC's Let's Stop HIV Together campaign. To where we curate and cultivate like different events around community and on social media. To where we just talk about what does it mean to stop HIV. I'm also a host of a podcast called When Does It End, where me and the amazing Tori Cooper talk about ending the HIV epidemic through the four pillars of the EHE initiative of diagnose, treat, and respond. In addition to that, I literally just started a campaign here at my job about in prosperity in Dallas, Texas called SOS. So an SOS stands for syphilis on site, where we plan to aim to end syphilis on site. I spearheaded a project called Project Lit a few years ago, which stood for leadership, innovation, youth, and technology, to where I was educating young people across the nation on how to become public health influencers within their own communities, and so much more. So those were just a few of the things that I've done or what I'm currently doing as it relates to campaigning.
So, are you starting to go out into the community and just speak with people in the community, alluding to what you're working on and how these projects are going to help them out?
Oh yeah, most definitely. So that's pretty much what my job is. So me as a community engagement manager, my responsibility is to go out into community supports partnerships with folk, to advocate, to educate, to make sure people know what their options are, but to also spread the love of HIV and the awareness. I actually be speaking at a conference in Galveston, April the 11th to 12th, the eighth annual HIV conference with the South Central AETC. And I do like a lot of public speaking, a lot of public training, professionally and personally. I feel like when you're charged with information, you do better and you know better. And so it's my job to put that out there. So yeah, I'm always doing it.
Oh, wow, I'm proud of you. Um, can you tell me what advice would you offer to aspiring public health professionals looking to make a meaningful impact?
I would say public health is broad, and it is what you make it. For me, there's no textbook way of what public health looks like. Um, when I was in my master's program, I didn't know I was going to be doing what I was doing. I was told that I had to be a biostatistician, or I had to be a public health program planner, or I had to be an evaluator. I didn't know that I could be a community engagement manager. I didn't know that I could be an educator. I didn't know I could be a trainer. I didn't know I could be a public speaker. I didn't know I could be an advocate. And these were things that I kind of figured out on my own. And as I just naturally did them, I was like, oh my God, this is public health. So to you all looking to get into public health, or already in public health, you can make it whatever you want to make it because public health is everything. Don't allow people to tell you that you have to sit or remain in this box. As long as you have the power and as long as you have the drive and as long as you have the passion, you can make it happen. I often tell people that I live and operate by the principle of peace. That was a problem in my life, and that problem turned into purpose. And through that purpose, I found passion. And through that passion, I found power. And from power, I turned that into profit. So you just got to figure out what works best for you, but don't give up on yourself.
How do you approach the intersection of public health and social justice in your work?
Social justice is public health because racism is a public health issue. So when we talk about language justice, that's public health. When we talk about social justice, that's public health. When we talk about racial justice, that's public health. So the thing about it is, when we talk about social justice issues, we are tackling the inequities that people face based off of who they are due to religion, the color of their skin, sexual identity, or sexual preference. And so all of these are public health issues. As I said earlier, public health is so much more than what is going through your body. It's the things that you experience in life systematically and personally that create this space where you negate your own health, that lead you down this road of doing things that take away from living healthier lifestyles. You know, so it's everything. So social justice is public health because racism still exists and racism is a public health issue. If we can't tackle the systems in which we live in, for us to create a more equitable space where we all have equitable access, we won't see a change in public health. You know, they're not mutually exclusive.
Mm. What are some of the most pressing public health issues facing communities today?
So for me, I think that mental health is a big one because a lot of folk don't understand the concepts of mental health and they don't look at mental health as a public health issue when it really is. When we talk about manic depression, when we talk about bipolar disorder, when we talk about schizophrenia, but also when we talk about things such as like autism, right, and living on the spectrum, and people not knowing what that looks like and not knowing how to identify that, and then starting to normalize these behaviors and think that it's okay when how you feel based off how you're treated or how you navigate this space is not okay, and when there are resources out there for you. So for me, one of the biggest ones is mental health. Another one, of course, is HIV. You know, I'll be remiss if I didn't say that that was a big one. We still have folks who are acquiring HIV at high rates, and we are 42 years in the epidemic, and we still are seeing the same communities being impacted. So we have to figure out when are we going to turn on the switch to equitably make a change? When are we going to enhance the lives of our people? Another issue is heart disease, right? Heart disease and diabetes and those things, especially within Black and Brown communities. Like those rates are at an all time high. Like my cousin who is like 22, she's diagnosed as a pre-diabetic. Crazy, right? And so like we fail to think about these things until we get older in age, when in reality they're affecting us sooner than what we think.
Mm. Do you think, just as you mentioned diabetes, do you think that that's being overdone, or do you think people are just not being screened properly?
I think that when it comes to things such as like diabetes, uh, a lot of people aren't being screened. People are not checked. Folks who are diabetic are not doing what they need to take care of themselves. Number one, and then number two, when we talk about screenings and folks going in to get tested to check their blood pressure to see if they are pre-diabetic or they're living in some of those risk factors for diabetes, they're not doing what they need to be done either. So I think that creating spaces to where we can have more blood sugar screenings, to where people are regularly testing their blood pressure and like knowing that, hey, I have to go in every 6 months to get a physical to make sure that I'm okay, right? Because a lot of people aren't doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Most folks only go to the doctor when there's an issue. They don't go to the doctor to make sure it ain't an issue.
Mm-hmm. That's preventive maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
So, how do you navigate cultural differences and nuances when implementing public health interventions on a global scale?
Empathy and understanding. Empathy, understanding, and I'm a firm believer in don't give me something that you didn't allow me to be a part of. So creating programming and creating initiatives to where you, for specific communities, to where you allow those communities to lead what they look like. So in my field of public health, there's a principle called FUBA, for us, by us. So, like as a researcher, as a program planner, as an advocate, I always am intentional about creating these spaces to where I allow community to have a voice and I allow community to lead programs and solutions that impact their own communities. And I just become the wheelhouse of resource. I just become the assistant to them because they know their community best.
Mhm. So, do you work with a lot of community activists?
Yeah, I do. I
Okay.
do.
What are some of the most innovative approaches or strategies you've seen in addressing public health challenges?
Hmm. I think that for me, learning cohorts,
Mhm.
um, learning cohorts of folks who are learning what advocacy looks like on micro levels. I think that a lot of times too, folks think that to be a public health advocate or to live in advocacy, you have to be someone who speaks in front of everybody. You got to be someone who can see a client, but no, but what I've seen is that there are a lot of cohorts of people who are learning what advocacy looks like, and folks with lived experience, folks who don't have medical degrees, folks who ain't never went to school, folks who ain't never went to college, folks who might have sold drugs, people who might have sold sex, people, who might have been connected to somebody who was just a victim of life. But now you start to see these people become champions of the work that we do. So for me, the innovation lies in thinking outside of the box and how we reach people, but also how we educate advocates on these lower levels to reach other people just like them.
Mm. How do you prioritize and allocate resources in your efforts to promote health equity?
So when we talk about resources, so because I'm currently in the nonprofit space, and so all of what we do and how we do it is predicated off of funding, and so funding is backed by data. And so when we're going back to the data aspect of what we do is that you collecting data from those communities most impacted because the data is going to tell you what you need to be doing. But the thing that I love about the data is that the data is a twofold approach. You have the quantitative data, so the data that's in numbers, the data that you receive from people who are probably already accessing and receiving services. Then you have the data through people's personal stories and lived experiences. So when you combine those sets of data, you create insights that allow you to target and to focus where money and funding goes.
Mm. So, are you saying in this case, when you talk about monetary resources in this case, and you're saying that based on the federal programs that actually allocate money,
Hmm.
it's all determinative based on numbers for your area, as in how much funding you get.
Right. So yeah. So it's a larger approach, right? So it's policy,
Mm.
right? That's the one who's in office and who's in office, what they want to put money into, and what are their priorities. That's
Mhm.
one. Two, it's data. So is there a need for it? Is there a need for this? And then three, it's what's going on in the world at the time, right? Case
Mm.
in point, during COVID, COVID came out of nowhere. But you saw that within maybe 2.5 years, we had a vaccine. Within 2.5 years, we had a vaccine and we made it mandatory that everybody got that vaccine. And that money just didn't come out of nowhere. It had to come from somewhere, right?
Yes.
And a
Yeah.
lot of that money came from HIV dollars. A lot of folks who worked in the HIV space actually worked on that COVID stuff, but it's a combination approach, right? Of who's in office, what data is telling us, and what's going on in
Mm.
our communities.
So, let me ask you to look into your crystal ball and tell me, future wise, because of all of this advancement in the R&D, especially in the HIV world, when are they going to put out this cure?
You know what? I don't know. I cannot answer that because I am not at that level. That is a bit above my pay grade. But what I can say is that there's a medication that you have to prevent HIV. There's a medication that you have to treat HIV, and there's also a medication that they have that you can take in the event of you being exposed to HIV, so you won't seroconvert to a positive status. Um, we started off with a cocktail of pills, 12 pills, 2 and 3 times a day. So now you have 1 pill regimens and you have bi-monthly shots. So as long as we progress and as long as we engage in inclusive forms of research that include everybody, I think that in the near future we can see a paradigm shift to where HIV would be a thing of the past and it won't be a thing of the future.
Can you share a particularly memorable success story from your work in public health?
A success story. So it was the first time that when I really got into public health and I was testing, I was doing outreach. And so for me, I tested somebody that had a positive status and gave them a counseling session. And a few years later, when I was hiring for workers, they came on an interview and they got hired. And so for me, the success was in me seeing someone go from receiving information that changed their life for the rest of their life to then being empowered to make a change and wanted to interview at a job that I was hiring for to be a part of creating the space for other people was such a pivotal moment for me because through that I was able to see my story and I was able to finally understand that the work that I was doing was not in vain. And that gave me hope for the future, you know?
So, what are some of the key partnerships or collaborations that have been instrumental in advancing your public health initiatives?
People. So, like, I am a firm believer in wisdom. I have I have so many mentors for so many different reasons. And so for every move that I make within my public health career, or just with things that I have going on in my mind or my head, I reach out to those trusted people to help guide me. So I can live and learn from like their experiences. So they impart into me wisdom that has gotten me to where I am when I'm low. They pick me up when I'm too high, they bring me down to reality. Um, for me, it's just the pure essence of mentorship. But people, as I said earlier, people seeing more in me than which I saw in myself. That has been the thing for me.
Oh, wow. So, how do you stay informed about emerging trends and developments in the field of public health?
I'm a nerd. So I research. So I read research articles. I go to CDC.gov. I go to HRSA.gov. I'm on social media. I'm always learning. If I see something on Bing or Yahoo when I'm checking my email or buying some shoes, I go find out what it's about. Just as simple as that. I try to keep myself educated and informed. I'm that kid. Oh, it's a training. Let me sign up. Oh, they talk about this. Let me read. Oh, let me listen to this webinar. Let me learn. So I just kind of stay in tune to what's going on through different media platforms because how we receive media and information is so varied now. But just making sure I'm on the edge of whatever's happening.
Mm. What do you believe are the most effective strategies for engaging communities in public health initiatives?
Meeting them where they are. Period. The biggest mistake that people make is that we develop these programs and we have these ideas that don't befit the communities in which we work within. Sometimes we have to come off of our pedestals and come from our education and go into these communities to really touch people and meet them where they are. Sometimes we have to understand their language and we can't always be so textbook in our approach. Sometimes we gotta reach them where they at. You gotta talk to them where they at. Sometimes you have to acknowledge that you might not be the person to reach somebody. So you got to find somebody who can do that, give them the tools and the power to go out and be that person that people need them to be.
So, let me ask you this because that's very, very important as you say that. But what do you say to those that, they're like, what do you want to call it? Like they're straddling the fence. Like they want the information, but they don't want the information. How do you deal with people like that? Because I'm
So,
sure you've met some.
so it's not my job. I tell these, I tell people this all the time. It's not my job to change your mind about nothing. But it is my job to give you a seed of information that you can grow into whatever plant, bush, tree, fruit, rose, flower, whatever you need it to be. Because behavior change does not happen overnight. Rome was not built in a day. And so, like within public health, there's this idea called the trans theoretical model, where it talks about the stages of change, where you have pre-contemplation, I ain't thinking about change, contemplation, I'm thinking about it, preparation, I'm finna change, I'm getting myself in order, action, I'm doing it, maintenance, I'm doing it, and I'm staying on doing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then relapse. I did it, I fell off, how can I get back on? And so, because I understand what that looks like, and also I understand that sometimes life's just lives, and I know that I can want the world for you, but until you want the world for yourself, you're not going to take it. You have to be intrinsically motivated to make a change. I know that, hey, I'm going to give you what I have. I'm going to give you all that I have. Now, if you use it, great. If you don't use it, you couldn't say that I didn't give it to you, but I guarantee you got you thinking.
Mm-hmm.
If I can take you from the stage of pre-contemplation to where you're not thinking about it, to where you're not aware about it, to contemplation, I've done my job.
Mm-hmm.
If I can take you from pre-contemplation to action, I've done my job. If I can help you go from relapse back to maintenance, I've done my job. So it's about meeting people where they are, giving them what you have, and allowing them to marinate on the information and give them the space to receive it. Because everybody receives information differently, and everybody ain't gonna change when you needed to change, but you still got to give them what all you got. Don't give up on folks. Show up, continue to show up, continue to be present, continue to advocate, continue to educate. And sometimes you got to shift how you do it to reach people. But that's your job. That's my job. It's to be diverse. That's my job.
Mm-hmm.
It's to be malleable enough to meet people where they are.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So, how do you measure the impact and effectiveness of your public health interventions?
So you see that in many ways. It depends on what type of intervention is being done. Um, so if you're doing something specifically with the goal to enhance testing numbers, so the measures would be to see how many HIV tests that have been completed, or to see how people have changed their perceptions around education, right? Based off this training, has the thoughts that you have around HIV and sexual reproductive health change? Have they enhanced? Or what are you doing? Is your behavior changing? So with several different indicators that you can employ, it just depends on the program and what it looks like and what you're measuring, right? So if I'm measuring perception, I do pre and post tests to see, did I enhance your mind? Did I change your perception? If I'm doing knowledge, okay, I'm going to see, did your knowledge change, or what are you actively doing? Do I want you to act differently? Do I want you to change your behavior? I'm going to see if that behavior changes on the end based off of how many times you came to the clinic, how many times you get tested by you being a participant in this program. So it just depends on the program. It also depends on the goal and the outcome and the funding.
So, yeah, let me just go back to something because this was something I was intending on asking you a while ago. Initiatives. How do you guys determine what initiatives to run in the particular communities?
Data. So I think so. Literally, is data. Like data runs the world. Data runs the work that we do, because without data, we don't know what's going on. We also don't know where we need to be going. So you will have a data. You'll look at the data, okay, and you will see that, okay, Black women have an issue with PrEP, right? So what's common among these Black women? Okay, we figured out what was going on with Black women in PrEP. Let's have a focus group of Black women and see how can we reach Black women. Okay, we've had a conversation with Black women. Now we know how to reach them. Okay, what type of initiative can we roll out? Based off what they told us to reach Black women and talk about PrEP. Oh, so the insights from all this data, they told us we need to be doing this. Let's roll it out. We roll it out. We have a pilot program. Let's test it. Let's see if it works. Okay, it works. Let's make it bigger. Let's throw some more dollars in it. All right. Let's throw some more money in it. All right. Oh, something happened. Let's adapt it. Let's change it to fit what's going on. And it's literally just like that.
So, what could be significant that it makes you change an initiative?
Funding, what's going on in the world, right? So when COVID happened and we had to go to this virtual space, how people provided services had to completely change. Priorities, new technology, society, culture, natural disasters, anything.
What advice would you offer to policymakers and government officials seeking to prioritize public health in their agendas?
People are tired of you all just showing up within communities just for a vote. You know, you come to be present, but we need you to have presence, but then you being present. So when you're advocating for our communities on Capitol Hill, when you're showing up to get our votes, come to see us after you've been put into office to ask us what the issues are. Come volunteer, come develop connections because we as a community, we see that. And it's not a good feeling to be tokenized. You
Mm.
know, really truly be about what you said that you're going to be about and do.
You would have been perfect on last night's show. It was, I did a roundtable, the state of Black America,
Mhm.
and we were working on an agenda for all the underserved communities. You know, and what you're dishing out now is definitely something we could have actually used and added to that. What legacy do you hope to leave behind in your contributions to public health?
My legacy is that you can be whoever the fuck that you want to be and make it happen for people. You know, I'm my goal is to be Dr. Walker. Yeah, I'm Dr. Walker, but also I go to the club. You will see me head down, ass up, twerking, having a good time with my friends. I'm Dr. Walker, but I'm also in ballroom. You know, so don't allow people to put a label on you or to put you into a box. And my legacy in public health is to be authentically myself, not conforming to what society expects or needs me or wants me to be. Just being who I know how to be. That's all that I can be, and being okay with it.
Well, I tell you, with my show actually, American Black and White actually catering to the underserved community and giving voice to those that don't have one, I've got to say that you have truly presented yourself as a mentor that I think an enormous amount of people in different communities need to actually reach out to and learn some things from, because you have truly have proven that you are definitely a phoenix, because you are definitely risen all the way to the top, and that's something that you're someone that deserves for people to know who you are and what you do, because what you do is mainstream and it's really, really of life and death. And so you represent that well, and I truly appreciate you for taking the time out to come and bless us with your presence and with this information that's definitely needed. And I hope that we can have you back on the show again, because Chris Walker, you just put your thumbprint on the show.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that so much. I appreciate it.
And so that's do you have any closing remarks, or how do you want to leave your contact information for people to get in contact with you?
Yes. Oh my gosh. So everybody out there, you can follow me on Instagram at Chris Your Hero, and it is spelled exactly how it sounds. That's Chris Your Hero, and that's at ChrisYourHero. If you want to email me or collaborate, you can find me at cwalker at aboundingprosperity.org. That's C Walker at aboundingprosperity.org. And Abounding Prosperity is spelled ABOUNDINGPROSPERITY.org. Or my personal email is chrisx94@gmail.com. 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 And to all of you all out there who are listening and watching, and to the world, I just want to empower you just to live with love, live with light, and to know that you are worth it. You matter. You are exceptional. And you can be an advocate in whatever way advocacy looks like for you. But just know that change starts within. And unless you change your heart, you can't change the world. So start with self first, and you will see the change within your community. Thank you.
So you should tell them what's the name of your podcast?
Oh my gosh, yes. So two podcasts. And one is When Does It End, and you can find us on YouTube, and it's with Capacity for Health. And then the other is called the Blackberry View, and that's BLAQBERRYDIEW, and that's on Instagram and YouTube.
All righty. Well, I want to thank you for your time, and I want to thank everybody that took the time out to listen to the show. I want you all to have a great evening, and I tell you, this has truly been one of the better shows that we've had, and I want to thank you again.
Oh my gosh, thank you, Ashe. And it was so great to share space with you, Charles. And I'll talk to you soon.
Yes, y'all have a great evening.